Riley can't be done with me.
So first, how not to listen.
Hey, it's gonna be okay. We can fix this. We just need to get back to headquarters. Which way to the train station?
I had a whole trip planned for us.
Hey, who's ticklish, huh? Here comes the tickle monster. Hey, Bing Bong, look at this. Oh, here's a fun game. You point to the train station and we all go there. Won't that be fun? Come on, let's go to the train station.
Okay, so joy represents what most people, the strategies that most people attempt to employ when they're met with someone that's upset or unhappy. First of all, she just attempts to gloss over the whole thing. Let's just get going. Then she attempts to substitute the negative emotion that he is feeling with a more positive one, or to just snap him out of it, basically, to distract from what he's actually authentically feeling. And finally, she just gives advice, basically. We should do this, or hey, why don't we try this or that, right? So why are these strategies not necessarily going to be effective or get you what you want or be helpful to the person? Well, first of all, there's a lot implied with what she's doing. This attempt to just gloss over it and move on, well, what does that imply? The implication is that whatever he's feeling and the time he's spending to process it, it's not important. It's not significant. It's not worthy of the attention he's paying. That's pretty presumptive, don't you think? How does she know? Who's she to decide the level of significance here, when she hasn't even demonstrated an understanding of why he's upset? Then the attempt to just substitute it with a positive emotion. Well, what's implied by that? Somehow that this negative emotion has nothing to offer, that there's no value to gain, no understanding from this feeling. Why is that assumed? Just because it's negative. Sure, we don't like to feel that way, perhaps. But emotions, whether they're positive or negative, are merely signals. And they require, at times, some interpretation or introspection to understand what they're attempting to tell us or nudge us toward doing. And if we just gloss over it, we may never find that out. And even if we're successful in distracting ourselves, if it is sufficiently important, it may just fester and then spill out in some more extreme fashion later on. Now, finally, she gives advice. And the issue with advice is that even if someone follows your instructions, they can end up being unhappy with the result. And certainly if you don't actually understand or comprehend the problem in the first place, just throwing out advice can be incredibly destructive. So let's move on to sadness and see how she approaches things. So what does sadness do first?
I'm sorry they took your rocket. They took something that you loved.
She expresses sympathy. And through that sympathy, she communicates an understanding of the problem, of why he, Bing Bong, is upset, which is something that Joy never did. She failed from the beginning.
It's gone. Forever.
Sadness. Don't make him feel worse.
Sorry.
So she reiterates an understanding of what has happened here, that there's a tremendous loss has occurred in the eyes of this person. And beyond that, she doesn't sugarcoat it at all. She doesn't attempt to dilute the significance of what has happened here. She doesn't shy away from the reality that this is a permanent change that has occurred, that we have to come to terms with now. Now, Joy, listening to this, recoils, assuming that, well, why would you do that? Why would you say that to him? But again, there's no hierarchy here. Sadness is not attempting to play some kind of teacher, superior authority role here. She's treating him like an equal. I'm not going to pretend that this is not, this thing you cared about so much, it's gone.
It's all I had left of Riley.
I bet you and Riley had great adventures.
Oh, they were wonderful. Once we flew back in time. We had breakfast twice that day.
Sadness.
So then Sadness shares speculation, invites an opportunity to reminisce about the past that he shared with this person he cared so much about, and that they shared this object that he is now lost. And Bing Bong reciprocates. He adds to that. He does share what he remembers. Now Joy again is fearful that, well, why are you talking about this stuff? You're just going to upset him. And some people, this is a fear they have when talking about the past, whether in therapy or outside of therapy, that, well, if I focus on the past, I'm just going to get stuck there, wallowing, become miserable. What's the point of that? Now that is a worthwhile concern. You're right to be cautious about that, because certainly this kind of reminiscing or reflection on the past can be taken too far. And some people, for some, it can turn into a kind of vice, problem in and of itself, where you're so fixated on the past that you can't focus on anything else. Just everything reverts back to thinking about these previous events that we cannot change. Now, one would argue, though, that that is one extreme, and the other extreme is this attitude of just plow ahead. Don't look in the rear view. Just keep on going. Charge ahead. Don't worry about what's happened. It's done. Can't change it. Blah, blah, blah. And arguably both of these extremes are potentially not ideal. Now, hopefully there's somewhere in the middle where there's a balance to be had, where we can assess the past, we can learn from it, and it can aid us in our present and future decision making without it keeping us stuck, imprisoned.
It sounds amazing. I bet Riley liked it.
Oh, she did. We were best friends.
So they continue talking, and we're gaining an understanding of why there's so much pain being felt now. And this often is the case, that the pain you feel for a loss, the extent of that, the degree of that pain is a reflection of the value that you placed in this person or thing that you now have lost. And that these things are kind of inseparable. And to have prized and valued and derived joy and happiness and love from a person or relationship, experience. The idea that that is going to be immune from future pain if it is to be taken away from you is perhaps not realistic. And then again, the pain you feel is arguably indicative of the value that you placed in that thing or person.
Yeah, it's sad.
I'm okay now. Come on. The train station is this way.
So finally we get the catharsis. Sadness reiterates the emotion that is felt, that this is sad. And Bing Bong is allowed to fully experience that pain and upset with another person. And what follows that is a calm. And he decides to stand up and point where to go. This is often what we find and why we don't give advice. It's not that people don't necessarily know what to do. Sometimes that is the case, but often there is an understanding of what needs to be done. But timing is everything. And you can have the best advice in the world, the most ingenious solution to offer someone. But if they're not ready to hear it, it's useless. And sometimes, therefore, you just be with another person, connect with them, understand them, empathize with them. They can figure it out on their own when they're ready. Which is not something you can necessarily decide for them when that time is. Some people, they may decide they're never ready. That's their choice. So hopefully now you have a better understanding of how not to listen and how to listen. Now, before we end though, there's one other thing to mention. And it applies not just to listening, but all forms of communication really, because there's a million different pieces of advice or suggestions or strategies that you can implement to be a better communicator. Now, the issue with all of them, including this stuff when it comes to listening, is that if you treat it like a strategy or a gambit, and you turn it into this sterile process, where you're doing it as a means to an end, you can end up appearing very inauthentic. And people don't feel good around that. And they can pick up on it. And they can realize what you're doing. And they can be repulsed and repelled and recoil. And therefore it can backfire. So knowing this stuff is one thing. But paradoxically, as with many things, once you know it, you kind of have to forget it and just be. Just exist with another person. Free of agenda. Doing your best to connect in the present with them. moment to moment. And then if you can do that, a lot of this other stuff doesn't matter. It will occur organically without the need to think about it in terms of this ABC mentality. Or you're just ticking boxes or turning a particular key to unlock a particular reaction. So that's the paradox here. That knowing this stuff is one thing, but there's a danger in it creating the exact opposite of what you want if you turn it into this skill that you just want to apply indiscriminately as a means of provoking a particular reaction. So use it with care. And we'll talk in the next one. Thanks.